Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. I have gone and bought another project. I got this project from a guy called Robert. He lives in just outside of Nashville, and he gave me a pretty good deal on this and some other stuff along with it. It doesn't run, and I did try and get it to run. It does turn over. The starter works if you put a battery directly on the starter itself. The electrical system, I'm not sure what got in the way of making it work. Could be that there's like a little clutch switch, and who knows. But it doesn't start. It doesn't. There's no spark. So I understand that there are some points that may need adjusted, and some other stuff to be done to a carburetor kit, cleaned out. But I don't care. I'm not particularly good at taking before videos, but what I've gone ahead and done is I've gone ahead and removed some stuff and installed some stuff. So the engine, let's go look at the engine. That's the engine. This is a Kohler 10 horsepower engine. There it is in all of its glory. I don't have any use for this thing. I'm going to put this on Marketplace and see if somebody will give me something for it. If you have a Cub Cadet that could use an engine like this, it's all for it. It's all for you. These are Cub Cadets are kind of weird. That if you notice, this is actually the front of the engine, and so because the transmission runs backwards, and the reason for that is down in the transmission itself, where the drive shaft goes into it, there's a reduction unit. There's not a reduction unit, but just a gear reduction that goes from where the input shaft is, steps it down, and then it goes through the gearbox and then into the differential itself. That's the same situation that the Cub that Artie has, and that I just drove my drive shaft straight into that. And those transmissions are hydrostats, and their overall gear ratio is about 25-1 by the time you get to the output shaft. But this is going to be considerably more. I think these are, well, the tractordata.com says that this vehicle had a top speed of like 9 miles an hour, and that's with the engine churning along at 3,600 RPM. So there's a lot of gear reduction, and this motor, you can plainly see, takes up considerably less room than the engine that was in it. The engine, when it was in there, it basically was flat across the top here, and it went all the way to the front, went all the way to the back. It was everything. The whole thing was full of engine. For 10 horsepower, this is like anywhere from 36 to 100, depending on the number of batteries and the controller you use. So, and this is an old series wound brush DC motor, so it's not even particularly power dense. But electric motors are just, you get a whole lot more power out of a whole lot less space. Of course, you got to have a bunch of batteries in there too. But what I love about this tractor, and the reason I picked it, Robert, he gave me a couple choices. What I love about this is that it's got these side panels on there, and like it's all metal. This is all old school. They don't make it like that anymore stuff. And so there's tons of room in here. Look, I could have batteries going all the way up into there on both sides, and just on top of this motor. At first I was thinking that this motor is just bonkers too big, because I kind of wanted to use the original clutch and then just set this motor, have the option to just set this motor on idle and then use the clutch and drive it as if it was the engine, because I want to put hydraulics on this, because I am definitely going to put a front end loader. The idea of this is to not only replace my Murray garden tractor, riding lawnmower. That's different than a garden tractor. Riding lawnmower, I want to replace that with this, because that I think is just on borrowed time. The transmissions in those is just not made to have a high torque electric motor being directly driven into it, and sooner or later it's going to break. But anyway, This is going to replace that. But it's also, I also want it to replace my Kubota. I've got that BX 2200 Kubota with a front end loader. I'd like for this to replace that. And I need hydraulics. You can do loaders with linear actuators, and that would work. They end up being really slow, but more a bigger problem is that the linear actuators, they can't float. So if you have the bucket up, that's fine, but if you set the bucket down and then just want to back drag on something, they don't float. So that's annoying, but with hydraulics they will. And then if I have hydraulics, theoretically I could have a belly mower that's hydraulically raised and lowered, a 3-point hitch that's hydraulically raised and lowered. The Cub out there, it has a 3-point hitch also, but it has a linear actuator. There's this cheap Chinese linear actuator that not only is really, really slow, but it's not half as powerful as it's advertised to be. And it's a real pain in the butt to change. So it's kind of not useful. So I don't use that 3-point hitch. It's just there because it looks cool. But this could have an actual functioning 3-point. And I could have like a secondary motor that mounted back here with an output that I could make a brush hog, an actual brush hog with a PTO that you plug into the motor or something. I don't know. And if I had hydraulics, I could run the hydraulics to the back, have an accessory output here. So a log splitter. I don't need a log splitter, but you know what I mean. And you could run anything. I could even have a backhoe. I don't know. This guy's kind of the limit for what I could do. But this tractor's in extremely good condition. It's been sitting outside a long time, but overall it's really, really good condition. All the bolts, they're a little bit rusty and some of them are tight, but just a shot of knocker loose and they come right undone. And I'm going to try and keep this thing sort of stock looking. I want to keep the dashboard sort of the way it is. I'm not going to be able to use the clutch like I said I was going to, not if I use this motor. And I do kind of want to use this motor, not only because I have it, but a replacement that would actually fit would be, $1,000 or something. And I don't want to buy another motor when I already have one. So I'm going to try and use this motor. And this is actually backwards. That should be the output shaft. It's got a big 1 1/8 inch output shaft, but it's got an auxiliary shaft in the front that is much smaller. I think it's 3/4, it might be 5/8, but it's much smaller, which is fine because even as much torque as this can put out, it's not going to break that shaft. And the drive shaft that I use to go back to the transmission, is going to be the same size, so it'll be all right. I would love to take this motor and couple it directly to the input shaft back there. But you can see there's all kinds of stuff in the way. That part right there is the steering column, so instantly can't move that. I could, again, get a different motor possibly and mount it back there directly onto the transmission, but there's just other stuff in the way. That little lever there on the side, that's the see if I can move it. Yeah, that's the lever for the for that. So you can raise and lower the mower deck if you have one. And it also has a that hole right there would go to an arm that comes forward to raise and lower a plow in the front. But anyway, I'm going to try and make this work because there's so much room above it for batteries and stuff. I'm not limited to that. And then also having all that weight in the front is, it's good for accessories on the back. And up underneath the seat is where the old 12-volt battery would have gone. I can put another 12-volt battery in there, and also the DC-DC converter and other components, relays and fuses and all that stuff, and have it hidden and safe and out of the way. Another goal with this thing is to have it so it's waterproof. So if I left it outside in the rain, it would be okay. Or if I'm driving home from a show or from a whatever, and it starts to rain and this thing gets wet, there's no damage. That's kind of a problem with the Cub. The instrument isn't waterproof. And then also one issue that I have with it is that the power steering It's got electric power steering assist. Well, that right there, it's really sunny out here, I can't see it. That right there is the control box for it, and none of these wires are protected, and when there's a lot of rain, it comes in there and it gets inside there, and it gets it all wet, and electronics don't like that kind of thing. So any electronics that I have for this, I want to have covered and sealed and out of the elements. And for the instruments, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. The factory, it's got a charge for like the alternator on the engine, so it would tell you if you're discharging or charging as you drive. I'm not 100% sure what the middle one is. I don't know if anybody knows what that middle one is. Let me know. And then of course there's a choke, so I'll use that for something else. Maybe, you know, drill that out and use it as a gauge. But I'd like to sort of keep that, and I might not even repaint that. I might just leave that as is and just sort of keep the patina because it's kind of cool. I'd even tossed around the idea of not even painting this at all and just keeping the patina and put all new components in there and new stuff, but just keep this as is because I don't know, it's kind of sharp. You know, patina is kind of the thing that you can't buy it. You can't simulate this. You can sand it down, and if you go to some car shows nowadays, that's kind of a thing with old trucks and some cars. They do those what do they call them? Well, anyway, there's a style. It's a style that you do where it intentionally looks kind of bad, but it's done on purpose. But anyway, the stuff that I got. This is a Brindley hitch. This is basically a 1-point hitch. That bracket right there mounts underneath that tow hitch, I guess you'd call it. And then this part sticks up straight like that, something like that. And then there's a, oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. This goes like that. This part sticks up straight. My fault. This part sticks up straight. And then this part sticks into a little plug that sort of rotates up and down like that. You can look online for Brindley hitch. They're just a real simple 3-point hitch, but that also has an actuating rod that goes to this, and it'll be hydraulically controlled, because part of the sale of this thing came with this. This is the actual Cub Cadet hydraulic actuator for that purpose, and that's just the valve. Normally that would go to the hydrostatic transmission, but I'll have that run to a hydraulic pump. I wanted to have the hydraulic pump run off of the front of the motor, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna have room. I will get rid of this clutch, so all of this is gonna get moved back, say, 6 inches or so. I could even get rid of this piece, move it back further, so it basically bumps up to that steering gear, as long as there's room for the steering to work. But I'll move that motor back as far as I can, so there'll be some room up here in the front, and maybe I'll be able to find a hydraulic pump that's small enough to fit in there. Or, hold on, or I might could use this. This is an electric hydraulic pump, power steering pump from an MR2. If you know about MR2s, they're rear mounted engines, and this hydraulic pump is just mounted up in the front instead of running hydraulic hoses to the back to an engine driven pump. They use this. I don't know how much volume this puts out or how much pressure, but I did have this on the Jeep. If you go way back into my videos when I was building the Jeep, I had this on the Jeep, and it did actually work. In that application, it was just really hard to control, but in this application, it'll just be a hydraulic pump that I'll have a switch on the dashboard for, that if I want to use the hydraulic accessories or the front end loader, then I can just flip that switch and this thing will just be on, and it'll be used. But I don't know how much hydraulic volume it puts out or what pressure. The pressure, I'm sure, will be high enough. It's probably in the 1,000 range, but the gallons per minute or liters per minute or whatever, I don't know what that would be. So, and I'm not even sure how to test that. I may have to look online and see if I can find some info on it. But I think that'll work pretty cool, because I could put that, somewhere. It's actually kind of big, but I could tuck that up underneath in there somewhere. I don't know. But that's, yeah, so that's what I've done. That's what I'm going to do. And I probably won't keep it this patina. I'll go ahead and clean it and paint it and make it look like the articulating cub. But that is my next project. Now I know what you're thinking, all my loyal and faithful viewers. What about that? Yeah, what about that? I don't know. Which do I do first? It'd be kind of nice to do this, have it done before the winter. Yeah, I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.